Hey everyone. On the story for today. I got epic revenge on my cheating wife when I served divorce papers hidden inside her birthday cake. I made a final check around the house to ensure I hadn't missed anything important. Everything I needed for my business trip was packed. I informed my wife of 25 years that I'd parked my company car at the airport, but it was still at the office with other company items. At 45, I retired early from 25 years in management, opting for 3/4 of the full retirement benefit. By annually investing my stock options into my company's retirement account, I avoided taxes and secured a substantial retirement check, surpassing my current salary. My focus on tech investments paid off, with retirement checks now going into my new Bank of America account. Last Friday, I deposited my final paycheck, which included vacation pay and an $850,000 check from sold stocks, a tidy nest egg. The company was content to replace me at half the cost. To avoid it being considered marital assets, I delayed depositing the stock check until today. I donated my expensive suits to Goodwill, keeping only one, and downsized my possessions. With a lower tax rate and cost of living in my new location compared to California, I would be better off financially. I rented a U-Haul for a one-way trip, leased through my family trust under Uncle John's name. It was loaded with everything I was taking. He arranged it, and I paid in cash to avoid links to me. I left the West Coast to return to my small hometown, avoiding the job I hated and my wife's recent behavior. I looked forward to a simpler life with distant neighbors. My wife forgot I still owned my parents' farm, which she despised. Her disdain convinced me I was right to leave. I realized I had married a snob who hadn't changed, and I questioned if I ever knew her true self. Her actions clarified our relationship's reality, leading me to plan my new future with a surprising sense of contentment. My escape from the past would affect many. I never closed my parents' trust, leaving the farm outside marital assets. Renting the land to local farmers built a nice emergency fund. With my skills, I could fix tractors and heavy equipment instead of managing their design and construction. A relative prepared my parents' old homestead, providing a place to stay until it was livable, so I wasn't worried. I called my wife, Kendra, to remind her I would leave on a business trip before she got home from hers. I also checked if her flight schedule was still the same. She said she was eager to be home after 2 weeks of living out of a suitcase. I had everything planned to the minute. My 3 daughters and their husbands would arrive 2 hours before her to set up a surprise birthday party. We planned it all together. One of my daughters even invited her mom's boss and his wife. I hinted, and his wife said they'd come because he always bragged about Kendra's work. She wanted to meet the woman she heard so much about. My daughters didn't know how big the surprise really was. Over 50 family members and friends were coming for the potluck dinner to celebrate her late birthday. We were celebrating late because she was away with the management team on her birthday. She told us it was something important she couldn't miss. I knew better, but said nothing. I told my daughters I recorded my birthday wishes for my wife on a disc. Even though I had to fly out, I wanted to be there in spirit. I asked them to play my recording at the end, just before the party slowed down. That way everyone would know my thoughts about their mother. They just had to turn on the big patio TV and hit play. I left the timing up to them. It was time to text my oldest daughter's husband to let him know I'd give him my new number when I arrived. I also gave him my new email address. We had worked together for a few years. David was one of the rising stars at my former job and met my eldest daughter through me. Being an accountant, he knew about my retirement plans. He thought I was doing this because I found out about my wife's affair. He doubted it until I showed him the investigator's report. He's the type who needs to see to believe. I felt some regret about tonight, mostly because David would learn a hard truth in an unpleasant way. But the truth had to come out. He suggested I remove all my contact information online, even closing my Facebook page, which I did once Kendra was on the plane home. He said to let her worry about the unknown. She may be my mother-in-law, but she deserves it after what she did. I agreed, because in our state, she gets half anyway. The last thing I did was send copies of our bank balances and a list of our small debts to my lawyer. According to the latest property tax assessment, our house was worth about. With my half, I could buy a new home and still have money left to furnish it. I tossed my cell phone into the garbage under the kitchen sink as I left our home for the last time. I ensured nothing I did would be noticed until after the party. Leaving California after 25 years was sad. I was heading back to the Badlands of South Dakota as a nobody, just like when I left. Fewer than 10 people outside the family would miss me. Knowing my video would change many lives made me smile. I stopped at a cell phone store and bought a new phone, getting a local number for my new area. Back in the truck, I made one call. When a woman answered, I said, "This is the new number." "I'm headed out," she replied. "Got it." I then shut it off to save the charge for emergencies. I looked forward to the drive east in mid-March. Before it got too hot, the countryside would be beautiful with the rebirth of spring. Kendra and I met at an Aerosmith concert years ago. She was a local California girl and I was from out of state. We married a year later on the same day my parents flew out for the wedding. I worked in research and development, and Kendra worked in importing and marketing. We had been with the same companies for years. Even now, Kendra turned heads when she walked into a room. She still had the same figure as when we married and dressed stylishly, showing off her best features. I couldn't say the same for myself. I had the typical dad bod with a pot belly and all. Kendra was eager to get home after spending 2 weeks with her boss and lover, Eric Hopper. She was sorry her husband, Colin, had to leave suddenly, but that happened often with two busy careers. Being with Eric was a nice break, but she looked forward to her normal routine. 2 weeks of sex every night was fun for a while, keeping her feeling young and appreciated. Still, she preferred making love with her husband twice a week regularly. After their private jet landed, she cleared the airport and got into her company car to drive home. When Kendra arrived, she was surprised to see her family there. All 3 of her daughters and their husbands had made it. Her eldest was 23 and the twins were 22. The big celebration was in full swing. Over the next few hours, Kendra loved the attention from family, close friends and some CO workers. Kendra was surprised when her boss and his wife showed up. She had just spent 2 weeks with him. When she asked who invited them, her oldest daughter admitted it was her. She said, "Your boss always brags about you and his wife wanted to meet you." This made Kendra feel special and proud. Finally, around 8 p.m., our 3 daughters congratulated their mother on reaching another milestone. "Mom," the twins said, "Dad didn't want to be left out, so he recorded a special message for you." They turned on the 80-inch TV and played the DVD. The crowd on the patio got quiet. Everyone heard my voice saying, "Happy birthday, dear." I talked about some highlights from the past year. I mentioned a few funny things before getting serious, like the birth of our first grandson, the marriage of our last single daughter, our last anniversary, and our plans for a second honeymoon. "It's been a busy year," I said. "I believe we as a couple are finally heading in the same direction." I was looking forward to romantic weekends like we had before the kids came along. Then I came home from a trip overseas and found this on our security system. It changed my whole world. I found out that my wife and I lived with 2 different realities. The video clip started playing, showing my wife and daughters talking about having lovers on the side without their spouses knowing. It got very quiet as the clip revealed their comments about their lovers, who they were, what it was like, what they did, and when. They even talked about covering for each other when needed. The first time I saw it, I was shocked. It seemed unreal to hear women talk about their affairs so openly. I had to watch it more than once to accept this new reality. It was interesting to hear how easy they thought it was to deceive their spouses. Kendra bragged that she had her 3rd lover in the last 10 years. She said each lover brought her different and exciting experiences. Until she got bored, she proudly said she was already looking for her 4th. It was clear that their husbands had no idea how these women really viewed them. Keeping their spouses fooled was easy. They just had to make them believe they were the most important thing in their lives. The details they shared were quite revealing to some of the spouses who were also at the party. For many, this would be a night to remember. I came back on the screen to say I wondered if they knew they were being recorded by our security system. If they did, they must have set me up. It was the sickest joke on me. If not, it showed their true feelings towards their spouses. Just their words weren't enough for me to believe what I heard, I said. But it did make me doubt. The next clip will show what I found thanks to the investigators I hired. The second clip showed my wife and her boss on their last business trip. It was filmed during the first week of their 2-week stay. It captured everything. The long hours lying naked on Vancouver's only nude beach. The hotel suite they shared at the Westin Bayshore Hotel, the hotel registry showing them as Mr. and Miss. Their romantic horse and carriage ride around Stanley Park, whispering sweet nothings. There were romantic dinners, a night boat ride around the cove, and a day of whale watching. To anyone unaware, it looked like a honeymoon. By the time the video ended, everyone knew I had been fooled more than once. The last words I recorded said it all. "I guess this was your birthday present to yourself, my dear. Celebrating your 43rd birthday with your newest love must have been thrilling, Kendra. I can't prove you made love with your boss, Eric Hopper, every night during your trip. But I also can't say you didn't," I said in the video. "I do know for a fact your room had only one double bed. To my 3 sons-in-law, I must ask, do you truly know what your wives are doing behind your back? It appears I didn't. Are you sure your children are yours? Are my kids really mine?" I continued. "How many of these special business trips, Kendra, were just personal playtime with your latest lover? Was I that bad of a lover and husband all these years? It seems you thought so, given how long your affairs have lasted. In this new reality, I saw how little I meant to you. If you were that unhappy, why didn't you just ask for a divorce? One final question, Kendra. Are you such a valuable employee to Mr. Hopper because you willingly sleep with him? I have to ask because of what we now know. What is he really paying you for? Does he pay you extra for kinky stuff? What's the going rate for a married woman to be his personal hooker? I wish I could be there." I'd love to hear Eric Hopper's answers to these questions. I believe his wife, if she's here, would want to hear them too. I finished as the screen went black. The silence on the patio was deafening. No one knew what to say or do. My statement raised a lot of questions and ruined several reputations. Even in California, where social norms are loose, everyone felt uncomfortable being part of this. The police here don't even bother with thefts under $1,000. That was part of the price we paid to live in California. Many would have heated talks with their spouses when they got home that night. One thing was sure, this was a celebration everyone would remember for the rest of their lives. I was later told that my wife Kendra and our 3 daughters had tears running down their faces. I wondered if it was because they saw the consequences of their actions or because they were caught. I doubted any of them cared about me at that moment. The icing on the cake was when Eric Hopper's wife, Karen Hopper, who was a beautiful 37-year-old, pulled out 2 legal envelopes and served them both. I heard Karen took great pleasure in slapping my soon-to-be ex-wife and calling her some nasty names. Both Kendra and her lover were now being divorced by their spouses, facing the public fallout of their actions. One would wonder what they thought about their new reality. Eric was shocked to be caught and exposed in front of his wife. He could never undo what had happened. Both had seen and heard my proof. He thought his wife had no clue because she never doubted him. Then he realized she was my lawyer. Kendra had caused all this. He would have to fire her if he wanted any chance to save his marriage. Revealing the truth about my wife and my world had destroyed 5 marriages. My 3 sons-in-law told their wives not to come home until they were ready to tell the whole truth. Even though the younger generation had different views on morals and principles, some things were too much. But this is California and things are different here. Sadly, it took something like this for them to learn it. I drove until I felt tired. I pulled off at a motel and parked where the office could see my truck. After checking in, I got one of my suitcases and the new cell phone and went to my room. After a shower, I got ready for bed and charged the phone. Curiosity made me turn it on to see if I had a message from the lady with my number. I did, the text said. "Home from the party. Call me." Karen, my divorce lawyer, answered before the 3rd ring. "Hi, darling," I said. "How did your day go?" "Better than we expected," Karen replied. Eric and I arrived at the house around. There were about people there. Everyone was in a great mood for 5 hours. The party was perfect. "You were right. They had no clue," Karen said. Kendra was thrilled, feeling like the queen bee. Then, just as things were winding down, your daughters played your recorded video because of what you revealed. "I got 3 new clients for the firm," Karen said, pausing to catch her breath. As soon as the video of your wife and daughters played, they realized they had forgotten to turn off the security cameras that day. It was funny to hear all 4 women say, "Oh, we are screwed," at the same time, Karen laughed. Everyone was shocked to hear them talk so casually about their affairs, she continued. Then the clip of our spouse's romantic trip sealed it. Everyone knew the first conversation was real. When I served our spouses, everyone ran for cover. It was like someone yelled fire at your house. Your 3 sons-in-law asked if I was a divorce lawyer. I said yes, that's why I served them. I got 3 retainer checks on the spot. It looks like your daughter's relationships might end in divorce too. I drove Eric's car home and left him there, Karen said joyfully. Did they try to call me? I asked. After most people left, your wife tried to call you. We watched as she found your ringing cell phone in the garbage. Throwing your phone away spoke volumes without saying a word. It was like you were telling your family you were done with them, Karen explained. My husband stood silent, thinking he had been so careful. I said, smiling. The countdown is on. 6 months from when we filed, our divorces can be granted. I don't regret finding that conversation on the security system. Without it, I wouldn't have met you. Maybe they will settle quickly without a fight. Do you still want everything sold and turned into cash? Karen asked. Yes, unless she can buy me out. With so many people leaving California, that might be better for me if that's what she wants, I said. Tomorrow she will start to panic. I'd love to see her face when she finds out you're no longer with your former employer, Karen sighed. I'll put my law practice up for sale tomorrow. I told my sister and her husband. You're on the way. He's looking forward to meeting you. He still believes you helped him get his tractor dealership a few years back. This new reality they've created has consequences that have just begun. I wonder if they'll still be laughing when we're done, I replied before saying goodbye. Kendra stood there holding her husband's cell phone. She wanted to tell him that Eric Hopper meant nothing to her and that their 3 daughters were his. Then it hit her. He no longer cared about the truth. This was his way of showing everyone he was done with them. Her lies were to blame. She had been too selfish to think about the consequences of getting caught. She now realized that the fun, excitement, and sex on the side were not worth the cost. There was no going back. Loy was still a small town in many ways. People may forgive, but they won't forget. There would always be whispers behind her back. Colin's actions sent a clear message. He had written them all out of his life, at least until he got over his anger. Though it might take him a while, he had always forgiven her bad behavior in the past. Maybe he would again. Kendra began to hope that in time, she could win him back. Kendra admitted to herself that she hadn't planned her lifestyle. It had evolved over the years. Being progressive-minded, she tended to blame others and not take responsibility. She never saw anything wrong in what she was doing. After all, no one was getting hurt. Having gotten away with it once, she found herself in a second affair. Eric Hopper was her third lover. Until today, she never thought she would get caught. Colin and she had been so busy with their careers that when they were home, they focused on each other and shut out the world. Her own stupidity had tipped him off. Now, because of her actions, even her daughters were facing divorce. Karen and I grew up less than 20 miles apart, but never met due to our age difference. I graduated high school before she started. I booked an appointment with her firm to explore divorce options. By chance, she was assigned to me. After hiring her, I showed her the video clip. She was shocked to realize the man my wife was talking about might be her husband. We confirmed it through her personal Facebook page. That day, we both knew our marriages were over. We bonded over our spouse's actions. After a long talk about her ethics, we decided to work together. As we investigated, our relationship grew. Initially, we kept it professional, but we helped each other heal. In a few weeks, we became friends. Unless you've experienced it, you can't understand the betrayal, anger, hurt, and hate. We had many phone calls to work through those emotions, and that's how our relationship started. We supported each other out of mutual need. Talking about our roots brought us closer. We were kindred spirits with shared experiences. We laughed about places we both knew and things we did when we were young. These talks lightened our mood. Neither of us was looking for love, but it happened. Last week, after dealing with her daughters, we admitted we had fallen in love. So far, our relationship has been platonic. We plan to keep it that way until our divorces are finalized to keep things simple. 12 days ago, right after I said goodbye to Kendra, Karen called. She had just told her daughters about their father, and they didn't believe her. I asked if her oldest daughter was still there. She said yes, so I asked to speak to her. I told her daughter that their mother was my lawyer, and that I had evidence to show them. I explained that I didn't know who Karen was when I hired her for my divorce. It wasn't until she saw my evidence that we realized we had the same problem. I suggested they view the evidence before passing judgment. Karen's daughters came to my place about half an hour later. I showed them the house's security system and how it worked. You could turn off the outside cameras before entering the house. But if you forgot to turn off the internal ones, They would record any sound or movement. I thought they needed to understand this before seeing the video. Then I had Amber and Meadow watch the discussion between my wife and our daughters. They were shocked. Hearing their father discuss intimate details about his life with my wife was disturbing. This is what your mother saw after I hired her because of her ethics. She couldn't tell you how she knew, I explained. Right now, your father and my wife are in Vancouver on their fake business trip. I have investigators getting more proof. When my wife Kendra returns, she will be served with divorce papers. I had a long conversation with the two girls about the meaning of vows, emphasizing that while forgiveness is easy, rebuilding trust is the real challenge. I expressed concern that my daughters are learning from their mother's behavior, which Kendra admitted has been ongoing for years. This situation has made us question the sincerity of our marriage vows and view our marriage in a different light. I pointed out that our lives have been torn apart by these actions, and without our children, everything we knew would feel like a lie. Meadow, Karen's youngest, surprised me with her insight, noting that if our spouses respected us, they would have never betrayed us. After the conversation, I called Karen to share how it went. She later told me her daughters found her easy to talk to. Amber, Karen's daughter, mentioned that I remind her of her grandfather, making complex issues simple and understandable, a trait she associates with our shared rural background. Both Karen and I are realizing the value of the simpler life we left behind and are seeking to return to it, moving away from the constant rush and competition of our current lives. At the next morning, I was on my way. I got back on Interstate East. By tonight, I hope to be out of Nevada and into northern Utah near the Wyoming border. I was taking my time to see some sights I had always wanted to see. Surprisingly, I was at peace. That night, after checking into a nice inn, I checked my new email account. I had a message to call my oldest son-in-law. Thankfully, he gave his phone number. "Hi, David," I said. "Hi, Dad. Glad you called," he replied. "I've got a lot to tell you, but first, where are you?" "I'm on the road licking my wounds," I said with a serious chuckle. "I'll tell that to the person who asked if I'd heard from you," David said. "It's been a crazy day. Kendra showed up at the office this morning, demanding to know where you were. She decided to catch a plane to work things out with you. She still thought she could save the relationship," he continued. "When she was told you had retired, she asked for confirmation, so I was called to talk to her. I told her you had taken early retirement and were moving. She asked where, and I said I didn't know. She called me a liar, saying you know where the retirement checks are sent or can find out," he informed me. "It went downhill from there. I had to get security to escort her out," he said. I shouldn't have laughed, but I did. "Oh, it gets better, Dad. Carrie called and said her mom got fired right after Eric Hopper was served with your $5 million alienation of affection suit from a lawyer in Vancouver. She had to call a taxi to get home. Kendra went to a labor lawyer and gave him another case to deal with. They served him around 4 o'clock this afternoon," David explained. "Carrie wants to come home and see our son. I told her we are doing nothing until I confirm my son is mine. If she doesn't like that, she can take me to court. Carrie claims she hasn't slept with anyone since we married," he continued. I responded. "That is not what your own words claim in the recorded chat." "Well, at least they are not bothering me about it," I said with a chuckle. "I'm taking the time to see some sights I've always wanted to see. This impromptu vacation is turning out to be the best thing I've done in a while. The question is, are you really going to divorce her, David?" "The twins were able to get their clothes and have moved in with Kendra," David said. "My wife is staying there too. No one wants anything to do with them right now. Everyone's too upset to think straight. As for divorce, it depends on what the DNA proves. If he's not my son, there's no reason for us to stay together. Right now, it seems like I was sold a false story. She showed me only what she wanted me to see, like bait on a hook. I've had about 6 months to deal with my feelings. Believe me, it takes that long to figure out what you can live with, so take your time and don't rush into anything," he advised. "Time has helped me move on and restart my life. It's heading in a new direction, and I'm excited about it," I said. "So you're not coming back?" David asked. "Only if one of my lawyers needs me for court," I said. "The place I'm moving to has lower taxes and cost of living, so I'll be ahead financially. Plus, the CEO wants me to work as an advisor sometimes. I can do that from my new home with a secure line in my computer, so I'll never be completely out of it." I told him I'd do it as long as I didn't have to wear a suit or tie. "Well, Dad, they already miss you here," David said. I heard that people would bring you their ideas and you'd point out what was good and what could go wrong. Is this your new cell phone number? Yes, it is. But for now, keep it to yourself, I said. One last thing. Next time you talk to Kendra, tell her she can go back to one of her other friends with benefits. After all, they accepted her before. If she argues, just say for the last 10 years you've shown he was just your backup plan. I didn't know it then, but David recorded our conversation and sent it to my wife and daughters. I would later learn that Kendra was not impressed. She thought I had no right to advise my son-in-law about anything. After all, I was just a man. My daughters were starting to see the cost of following their mother's lifestyle. Each of their husbands wanted as little contact with them as possible. They were beginning to turn on their mother. The next call was to Karen, who was excited to hear from me. She and her staff had been swamped with 5 more divorce cases because of my wife's surprise birthday party. It seems that 1 or 2 of Kendra's former partners had been discovered. She knew about Kendra's firing and said it was Eric's attempt to reconcile, but she wasn't interested. He didn't realize the board of directors had already talked to her, explaining everything. Kendra would be rehired and promoted, and he would be demoted for using company assets for personal reasons. She was just that good at her job. Karen told her daughter she was moving back to South Dakota after her divorce. If they wanted to stay in California, they need to find their own place or live with their dad. I've reached the age where I want a simpler life, she said. Meadow asked. Is it because you've fallen in love with Colin? Karen replied. I have, but we haven't acted on it yet. But I had to explain our story, Meadow said. I hope it makes you feel young again. It does, Karen said. She invited them to join her when she moved, adding, You are old enough to decide what kind of life you want. Learn from what I'm dealing with. I realized Kendra would struggle to find another man like me due to the publicity of our breakup. Her actions had ruined her chances for an honest, loving relationship. I wondered how long it would take for her to realize that. Around lunchtime, I pulled into my hometown. It had taken over 3 days to get here. I found a small diner and went in to eat before heading to the farm. During my last week at work, I had arranged for the electricity to be hooked up. I was waiting for my burger and fries, drinking coffee. Son of a witch. Is that you, Colin White? An old-timer said as he walked in and sat down at my booth. It's good to see you, son. You're looking good. Thanks, Uncle John. Where's your wife? I responded with a smile. She and our daughters are at the house getting it ready. I had to fix some minor plumbing problems. The house is almost move-in ready. They cleaned it up, got the fridge repaired and working, and replaced the fuses on the old stove. You'll probably want to update and modernize. We now live in town as Robert and his wife have taken over the farm. Good. Order some food on me and we'll catch up, I said. It was nice to be back with my family. Before heading to my childhood home, I stopped at the local grocery store to pick up basics. It was surprising how much cheaper food prices were here. I filled 2 carts. By the time I got to the checkout, the cashier and I had gone to school together, so we caught up as she rang me through. When I arrived at my family home, I was surprised at how good it looked from the outside. My aunt and cousins came out to greet me and helped bring in the groceries. Once we put them away, we made coffee. After they left, I took a closer look at the house. Uncle John was right. I would need major updates. I called him for names of good construction crews. 2 hours later, he brought them to the house. This gave me time to unpack. After looking over the house, we decided it would cost less to build a new one. The old house needed all new electrical wiring and plumbing. The barn was in good shape. With a new roof, some boards replaced, and a paint job, it would be like new. The stalls would be removed, so I could use the barn as my shop for tractor and heavy equipment repairs. That night, I called Karen and told her what I had learned. We decided on a 1-floor house with a small cold cellar for storage, built on a 4 ft crawl space, double insulated for the cold winters. I promised to visit her brother-in-law's dealership the next day. I called the contractor and told him what I wanted. He said he had some plans he would bring over after work. I returned the rental truck and went to the nearest car dealership. I bought a nice, slightly used Ford truck with low mileage, got it transferred and insured before returning the rental. I went to the bank, made a deposit, picked up a few blank checks and ordered some. The difference in gas prices shocked me here. It was much cheaper. I then went to introduce myself to Karen's older brother. It turned out we had gone to high school together. He offered me a job on the spot. I could start when I was ready. I told him about my plans and my ongoing relationship with the corporation. He teased me about his sister and my relationship. He said he never really understood his sister's first husband. I agreed with him. The contractor and I agreed on a price for building a 4-bedroom home with a large 2-car garage behind the old house. We decided on a new septic system and gas for heat, water and cooking with a large gas generator for backup electricity. The house would feature an open floor plan, a laundry mudroom with garage access, and a double insulated crawl space. The cost would be covered by my divorce settlement. After updating Karen about signing the contract for the new house and meeting her brother, David called to inform me that Kendra had hired a private firm to find me, thinking we could work things out. I told David there was nothing to work out and that if we got back together, Kendra would just repeat her actions. David reflected on my words, realizing that many smart people fail to see simple truths, which is why there are so many problems in our government. I explained that Kendra doesn't see her actions as the problem and thinks I need to be retrained to accept her behavior. She isn't sorry for what she did, just for getting caught. David acknowledged the truth in my perspective and decided he needed to talk to Carrie about understanding marriage equality. He mentioned his father saying, "What's good for the goose is good for the gander," and recognized that his mother saw him as a means to an end. I suggested David demand marriage counseling, preferably with a conservative counselor, to expose Carrie to a different viewpoint. David agreed that unless Carrie finds a balance, their relationship might not survive, and he might have to walk away for his own sanity. I started working on the barn, tearing out the stalls. It kept me busy. The physical work was hard, but it was good to use my muscles again. I found myself enjoying it. Thursday night, I got a call that surprised me. It was from Karen. My daughters thought I needed cheering up, she said. They had called my brother to tell him about our divorces. They didn't know he already knew for over 4 months. Meadow explained how I found out about their father's cheating and mentioned how they met you. Joseph told them he went to school with you and explained how you helped him get the dealership years ago. I owe that man a lot. It came out that you had moved back to take over your family's farm. They talked about us for about an hour. Slowly, everything came out. They were surprised that their favorite uncle approved of our relationship as it is. Please make sure they don't let that information out. Kendra hired a firm to find me, I said. She thinks if she can just talk to me, she can get me to forgive and come back. How did you find that out? Karen asked. I called my oldest son-in-law at the office. He's keeping me informed, I said. Plus, talking to me is helping him figure out how to move forward. No problem with that, Karen said. My daughters won't tell anyone after what they've done. Curious, I asked. What did they do? They used my credit card and booked me a flight. I arrived at the regional airport at 8 p.m. on Friday night, Karen explained. Start living the dream, Mom, they said. You both deserve it. I waited for her with a dozen red roses, feeling both excited and hopeful. This weekend marked our first official time together, and it made me chuckle to think the last time I felt this youthful and silly was as a teenager. As she approached, her brunette hair styled to accentuate her natural features. I couldn't help but smile. It was refreshing to see her dressed casually in blue jeans, a yellow blouse and a soft denim-like jacket, looking comfortable and genuine. Knowing she hadn't eaten, we grabbed her suitcase and headed to Ruby Tuesdays, where I had a surprise planned. After parking and securing her suitcase, we entered. Her brother and sister-in-law were already there, and by the end of dinner, Karen had agreed to be her brother's lawyer when she moved back home. Driving down the driveway to my childhood home, I wasn't sure what to expect. It was a typical 60s-style house, snug and solid. Karen's face lit up as she stepped inside. After getting a seat, I poured her a beer, pulled out a couple of my parents' old records and put them on. It was nice listening to Dean Martin, Sammy Davis and Old Blue Eyes while we snuggled on the couch like teenagers. These were the songs our parents listened to when we were growing up. We were taking it slow, wanting to be sure we were headed in the right direction. Kendra wasn't happy. She was used to getting her way. She needed to talk to her husband, Colin, and was getting nowhere. There was no record of him leaving on a flight, renting a car or anything. Even private investigators were finding nothing. His Facebook page was closed, his credit card canceled at his request by Bank of America. Everything she checked led to a dead end. Every day this week, his lawyer called, asking for the name of her lawyer. She hadn't hired one because she thought their marriage could be saved. He had removed all his contacts from the old telephone log. She knew he had relatives but couldn't remember their names. His family had never been important to her, so she never paid much attention. He had been so careful, and removing all traces of himself that she couldn't even get his social security number. Even her daughters were starting to worry. He had always had daily contact with them, but since he left, no one had heard from him except David. And David wasn't telling. He had told her oldest, Carrie, no contact until he proved little Colin was his son. Yet he didn't seem to be in a hurry to do that. When Carrie confronted him, he laughed at her. That was not how a husband was supposed to act. Colin wasn't behaving like Colin, and it was frustrating her. Colin had always done what he should. It was the one constant she could rely on. Now she had to hire someone to do what he always did. The problem was hired help didn't do it with as much care and love as Colin did. This whole situation was causing a strain on everyone. If Colin had just done what he always did, her relationship with her daughters wouldn't be falling apart. They were partly blaming her for their relationship problems, and that was just not right. Colin was not doing what he should. It's each woman's responsibility to keep their lives in line. Every man in a relationship has to learn that the woman is the boss. When she found Colin, she would make him pay dearly for his improper conduct towards her and their children. There is nothing more simple or beautiful than sitting on the porch, drinking a cup of coffee and watching the sunrise. I know, because that's what Karen and I were doing. Until now, I never understood why my parents would start their day like this whenever they could. Being here, feeling loved and appreciated by the universe, and it gives you the assurance you can face anything, Karen said. By the look on their faces, I think they finally got it. I'm so glad now that I never went down that road. I'm ashamed now that I talked about it, I said. Was David in on the conversation? I asked. He heard it all and was pleasantly surprised by how I explained things. It helped us a lot because we now are both seeing what happened with clear eyes, Carrie explained. How could our mother have convinced us that what she was doing was all right? Faith and Hope are really hurting. It's going to be a while before they will work it all out. Until that moment, they did not see that their conduct made them no better than the street people they had looked down upon for years, Carrie explained. I said, think about this. You trashed our father for what he did. Did you ever think what our conduct and Mom's did to him, or did you only care about yourself? That, my dear, is a question I'm still trying to answer for myself. Mom painted our world with rose-colored glasses, using her progressive views to make everything and anything acceptable. It took her getting caught for your daughters to see the reality of their world for what it was, Carrie said. It's sad that most of our society is still wearing theirs and are so blind to the truth that's staring them right in the face. Carrie, you learned something that a lot of adults will never understand in their life, I said. What's that, Dad? My eldest daughter asked. The skill, ability, and knowledge to think logically about even the simplest things, I replied. That is what makes your mother and my walk in life so different. Welcome to my world. Too bad you had to learn it the hard way. Wednesday night, I went to Karen's for a family dinner. The girls wanted to start planning for the move and how we were going to get it done. I told them what I had learned from Carrie the previous night. After dinner, we did the dishes. I washed. The girls dried and put away. The girls finally caught us kissing. They kept teasing us about it for the rest of the evening. Karen and I were out getting ready to enjoy a private dinner at a restaurant down by the pier on Friday evening. We were sitting across from each other, looking into each other's eyes, having a drink before ordering. When the twins walked in, the host approached us. Your daughters noticed you missed their wave and were wondering if you would allow them to join your table, the host said. I hesitated, but Karen said yes, we would like them to. I stood up and moved over to sit beside her. You can't leave things the way they are with them, no matter what. I know you don't like them right now, but you still love them, Karen said. So you have to hear them out. Whether I liked it or not, Karen was right. We watched as the hostess brought my daughters to our table. By their look, we both realized they had a lot on their minds. I waited until they sat down. Faith and Hope, let me introduce you to Karen, who not only is my lawyer, but now my girlfriend, I said firmly. If you're here to berate me some more, please just leave. Dad, we deserve that, Faith said. We had a long talk with Carrie Tuesday night. She was brutal with us and pulled no punches. We went there expecting some support. What we got was the true truth shoved down our throats. By the time she was through with us, we knew just what our own conduct had shown about ourselves. It really does not paint us in a good way, Faith added. Carrie showed us that we were getting paid for our services like a hooker, but in a different way, she continued. We talked about our conduct between ourselves and came to the understanding that a lot of people do it for money to survive, not by choice, Hope explained. We did it because we thought it was fun and believed that we were doing no wrong. It makes our actions a lot worse. When we got home, we confronted Mom about it. We ended up in a huge argument. Mother ended up saying we had been listening to too much of your conservative bullcrap, Faith said. Mom in one of her rants said, so what if others got hurt? They should learn to grow up. In our society, the only wrong is getting caught. There are no consequences for social crimes. Look at our federal government. We have some of the biggest politicians making money illegally, and nothing happens to them. It shows the laws only apply to some, Hope said. Nothing is black or white, Faith said. Each of us has the right to live our lives as we see fit. Mom still has no remorse or guilt. That's when it hit us. We teach our students what is right and wrong, but we have blurred what that is by our own conduct. We are down here today because we found a 2-bedroom furnished apartment nearby that we have rented for 6 months. It's reasonable and close to the school we both teach in. We both figure it's the first step in rebuilding our lives. It's time for us to stop living Mother's lies and find out who we are without her influence. Hope and I will be moving in tomorrow since Mom is going to be busy with some political party thing, Faith added. When we saw you, we both realized we had to apologize to you because we were so wrong. Dad, you really had no choice but to do what you did. We see that now. If you had faced us directly, it would have been 4 against 1, Hope said. You knew we had to work through it in our own way. Sometimes you just have to allow things to work out on their own, I said. You were already forgiven because I saw your behavior as being influenced by your mother, Kendra. I will forgive, but will never give her a second chance again. Her actions have always been self-centered and deliberate. With that said, I handed them my cell phone and asked them to add their contact information. They did and added my new number in theirs. What area is the phone number for? Hope asked. South Dakota, I said. OMG, you moved back to Grandpa's farm? Faith said with a huge smile. He would be so proud. You know the farm? Karen asked. Yes, Dad made sure the three of us spent every summer there growing up, Hope said. Until we started high school and developed the typical teenage attitude. We all learned to drive on Grandpa's tractor. Dad always drove us out and brought us back. He talked to us every night while we were there. We never heard from Mom the whole time we were gone. We learned that with her, it was out of sight, out of mind. Grandma used to say Mom was the shallowest person she ever knew. So, Dad, why are you in town? Faith asked. Karen, can we get your cell phone number? Dinner turned into a celebration. The twins learned about the new house we were building and why I was in town. They found out Karen had 2 daughters a few years younger. While we were eating, Hope got a text from her older sister asking if they were okay. Hope texted back. Having dinner with Dad and his girlfriend Karen. Faith and I will stop by afterward to explain everything. We were walking the pier, taking a relaxing stroll, amazed at how things were slowly working out. I'm surprised, Karen said. You moving away from them, forcing them to work most of it out on their own, my dad said. Give a person enough rope and they'll hang themselves, I said. It's true. Their own behavior, pointed out by their own gender, exposed what they really were. If I had been here, it would have been 4 against 1. This way they were against themselves. Their own sense of honesty and morality brought them down. Evil doesn't exist if it's not supported by someone carrying out the desires of others, Karen said. Or too many in our society blame others, not themselves. In many ways, I was their scapegoat. I couldn't go along with what they did because in my eyes, it was never right, I said. To Kendra, that was a weakness to use against you, Karen said. I see it as one of your strengths, because your actions show who you are. You could never be a follower, blown by the whims of those with no morals. You're solid and stand your ground. Kendra came home expecting to see her twin daughters. The political event on Saturday had taken longer than she expected, and she wanted to suggest they go out for the evening. She thought about their last argument, and realized she had gone too far. It had gotten nasty because she saw some of their father's traits in them, and she couldn't allow that. She had just thrown her purse on the counter to get a Coke out of the refrigerator when she saw the 2 house keys sitting on the counter on top of a short note. We have moved out. We don't like what you helped us to become. Good luck with your life. We have blocked your number. It was signed by Faith and Hope. I haven't heard from them since Tuesday night when Dad had security throw them out of the Hampton Inn, Carrie said, wanting to see how her mother would react. Why did he have them thrown out? Kendra asked. They wanted to tell him how badly he treated you. They went after him like they were trying to cut him down. Dad said to himself, I've had enough of this, and called security. When they showed up, he told them he wasn't buying what they were trying to sell, Carrie said. Security escorted them out the back door because they thought they were high-class hookers. But they're not. And you know that, Kendra said, looking worried. When they showed up here in tears, they told me their story. Do you want to know what I said to them, Mother? Carrie asked. Seriously, yes, maybe I do, Kendra said. I told them when their friends with benefits were whining and dining them, they weren't. They were being paid for it in advance, Carrie explained. Carrie laughed because her mother's face went blank. Kendra started crying. Carrie's words hit her hard. She knew she could never speak to her husband, Colin, again directly or be alone with him. What Carrie said was her father's truth. Kendra realized it right away, and without saying a word to any of them, it destroyed them all. No one who was honest could argue with that simple comment. Everyone who heard it would recognize it as a plain, direct fact. All those weekends away with her friends with benefits, which she thought were romantic adventures, were just payments for her services. Colin refused to put any spin on the raw truth. It took her weeks to understand what he said on the video. The night she came home from Vancouver. By her actions, she had turned her twins into what he saw her as, a high-class hooker for over 10 years. No man could accept that. No wonder he left them. She had given him no choice. She never saw it from his side until now. If his truth came out, she was ruined, and he knew it. By walking away, he left her something. She hadn't left him, her dignity. She had destroyed herself and her whole family. She took her progressive lifestyle too far. She no longer had a relationship with her husband or daughters because she couldn't admit the truth about her actions. Admitting responsibility wasn't the progressive way. For the first time, she had no scapegoat. This one was on her. She had ruined herself. Kendra looked around the house. Realizing she had to sell it to move on, there were too many memories reminding her of what she had lost. Facing the truth was hard. She would say the house was too big for her, and everyone would believe it. Eric Hopper would be pleased to know what had happened, as he thought she had gotten off easy. She would be like him, totally alone. Karen and I came back to her house after a night of drinking and dancing. We fell asleep together on the couch. Meadow and Amber took advantage of this. Using Karen's phone, they sent pictures to my 2 youngest daughters who called back. The 4 of them started planning. One of her daughters got a blanket and threw it over us. I woke up to a vision of a sleeping angel in my arms. My phone showed it was after 7 a.m. We had gone to bed around 1 a.m. Meadow was already up, sitting in a chair watching us. "I guess I'll have to get used to seeing this," Meadow said with a smile. Mom looked so happy and content. "I'll go make coffee for all of us." About an hour later, the 4 of us were sitting around the kitchen table, relaxing and talking, when the girls surprised us. "At this afternoon, my side of the family will be arriving for a get-together," Karen said. Karen and I hurried. I checked the fuel for the barbecue and it was good while she got redressed. After making the grocery list, we went to my suite so I could shower and shave quickly. Then we headed to the local grocery store. Just as we were going in, we ran into Kendra coming out. She paused in front of me. "Colin, please let the girls know I'm selling the house," Kendra said. "If they want anything, Carrie still has a key. Since they're not speaking to me, they can take what they want while I'm at work. The same goes for you." "I'll pass on the message and give Karen power of attorney to act for me," I said. "As for me, I took what I wanted when I left. I'm only in town for another 6 days." She nodded and walked away. We continued loading the vehicle with groceries and talked about our awkward meeting with Kendra. "Something serious has happened in Kendra's life that we don't know about," I said. "She seemed out of it today." "Do you think the twins moving out might have caused that?" Karen asked. "No, she was used to it being just us," I said. "Something else must have happened that she's trying to sort out. She loves that house, so whatever happened came out of nowhere and has affected her deeply." During the barbecue, Karen and I learned what the twins had written to their mother and what Carrie had said afterward. All 5 of our daughters got along great. David and I mostly stood on the sidelines while the 5 women interacted. Amber and Meadow doted on little Colin. I told my daughters about what their mother said at the grocery store. David said he wanted the huge plasma TV. Carrie just rolled her eyes. I chuckled to myself. Our first 2 family get-together couldn't have turned out better. After my daughters left and the cleanup was done, we relaxed with a cold beer. So basically, Faith and Hope have ended their relationship with their mother for now because they want to find out who they are without her. "Influence," Amber said. "Why would they do that?" Karen asked. "They followed their mother's example and got caught up with friends with benefits. It cost them their first marriages," I said. "It took me leaving Kendra for them to see their situation in a new light. Last Tuesday, they confronted me about my treatment of their mom. I ended up throwing them out." Later that night, during a heated discussion with their older sister, Carrie said when their friends with benefits were whining and dining them, they were actually being paid in advance for their services. Amber was in total shock. "Amber and Meadow, your mother and I were taught young that it doesn't matter how we see ourselves. What matters is how the world sees us," David said. "People see what you do and say in different ways. Our conduct says more about us than words ever can." "David's right," Karen said, leaning against me. "I couldn't have explained it better. That's why your father's actions raised questions. They contradicted everything he said. So the twins decided to remove their mother's influence until they find out who they are. They took responsibility for their actions. I'm very proud of them," I explained. "For them, the healing has started because they were honest about their behavior." I guess our words hit home because for a few minutes, the silence was deafening. Then Amber said, "You're going to make a great dad, Dad?" Karen lost it. The rest of the week was quiet. Karen and I spent as much time together as possible. The new tractor passed all tests. The president was thrilled. I named it Beta. The family had a gathering before I left. The twins got closer to Karen's daughters. We couldn't get little Colin out of Karen's hands. Her mothering instinct was strong. Eric and Karen finally agreed on the asset split. When she offered him the house, he took it, thinking it was his chance to get his daughters back. Karen saw me board the plane home. It was the last week of August. The homestead was ready, the old house was torn down, and the new one built. The barn was improved where needed, and even the yard was cleaned up. The last thing I did was rebuild the driveway to the house and barn. Uncle John drove me to the airport because I would be driving a U-Haul back. Karen sold her practice and an associate would finalize the divorce early in September. Over the last month, there were multiple deliveries to the farm. Uncle John helped set up the new furniture and took what we didn't need from Mom and Dad's stuff to Goodwill or found someone who could use it. It was nice to see neighbors helping neighbors again. Karen met me at the airport that Friday around 6 with the biggest smile I'd ever seen. Amber and Meadow were with her. After giving Karen a long overdue kiss, I got down on one knee and proposed to the delight of her daughters. They captured it all on video, including me sliding the ring on her finger. Amber and Meadow, who knew about my surprise, had arranged a huge celebration dinner at a restaurant with dinner and dancing. All our daughters and David were there. Between David and me, the ladies kept us on the dance floor most of the evening. When we got to Karen's home, Meadow told us to wait in the car for a moment. She and Amber ran in and came back out with a large overnight bag for their mother. Mom, Dad, we booked you a suite at the Hampton Inn for the weekend. We don't want to see you until Monday, Amber said. At our suite, we found a huge basket with 2 bottles of champagne, chocolates, strawberries, 2 glasses, balloons and roses. The card said congrats from your 5 daughters. I don't think we left the suite all weekend. After a wonderful breakfast Monday morning, we went to pick up the U-Haul. The one we got was bigger than I expected. I asked about it, but Karen said I'd have to wait until the afternoon for the reveal at Faith, and Hope showed up and announced they were moving east too. They had applied for jobs near where I'd be living and were hired by the Vermilion School Board. Karen had given them some furniture, and we would haul what they took from their mother's house to a rental storage unit. They rented a 3-bedroom house through a real estate agent so that when the weather got bad, Amber could stay with them. I dropped the suit against Eric Hopper as he agreed to cover all my court costs in Vancouver. We got our divorce certificates at the end of September. On the last Saturday in October, Karen and I said our vows in front of our blended family. Carrie and David flew out with little Colin to attend. Karen gave me the ultimate surprise in front of everyone to my darling husband, Colin, and our family. I wish to inform you all that there will be a new weight coming into the world sometime in May. Our doctor hasn't informed me if it's a boy or a girl yet. Well folks, that will be all for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Stay safe everyone.